Hello, this is Moorside, to the north of Southport. You skirt it as you flash by on Marine Drive. That's the coastal road that takes you to Southport's beach, the pier, the fun fair, and the glittering delights of Lord Street in the town centre. This whole area was once just open marshland, hence the name I suppose, with a few banks and dykes holding back the sea and allowing some land reclamation. Marine Drive was built on such an embankment in the 1960s, mostly from landfill. A mix of salt marshes and vast swathes of sand, partly formed from the outflow from the River Ribble. Its estuary is just along the coast from here. The sand and silt that prevented Preston's docks being a commercial success was also deposited here over time, causing the shoreline to recede, in places by hundreds of metres. Back on dryish land, we turn off Marine Drive and onto Hesketh Road. On the right is Southport's municipal golf links, opened in 1912. Designed by Harry Colt, it was England's first municipal course. It began life as a 9-hole and was expanded to 18 holes in the 1930s when further land was reclaimed. Opposite the Muni is RSPB Marshside, a wetland nature reserve of grassland and salt marsh that is home to nesting birds such as avocets and lapwings. In the air you might see pink-footed geese, who mass here and at nearby Martin Mere. You might even witness the odd owl patrolling. Further along Hesketh Road, behind the reserve, is Hesketh Golf Club, which claims to be the oldest in the town, having been established in 1885. They display a very special trophy from the 1930s, the Great Golf Prize of Nations, but that's a story for another day. But we're not here to twitch, or to play golf. We're here to look at another bit of Southport history, Hesketh Park Aerodrome. Nowadays you'd be hard-pressed to believe that this windswept, open landscape once housed aircraft, but in 1910 Southport Corporation built a hangar and an airfield on what is now the municipal golf course. Originally rented to aviator John Gaunt from Gargrave near Skipton, the setup was later moved to Hesketh Road. The planes would taxi along this road and down to the beach, which was used as the airfield. At low tide the prepared area was around 150 acres, that's about 60 hectares, so quite a size. There is a link to another part of Southport's proud history. The Vulcan Motor Company was a local manufacturer of cars and commercial vehicles, having been set up in the town in 1902 by brothers Thomas and Joseph Hampson. Their factory was just a couple of miles from here, in Crossens, the next village along from Moorside. In World War I, the company switched their efforts from manufacturing cars to producing aircraft such as this, the de Havilland DH-4, built for Airco, the aircraft manufacturing company, on behalf of the military. The planes were test-flown and delivered from the beach airfield. A canvas hangar had been built, but soon the RNAS, the Royal Naval Air Service, took over the site and demolished the canvas hangar, replacing it with 2 large bowstring hangars, similar to this at Hesketh Park Airfield on the Wirral. The new site was initially known as simply Aircraft Storage, then 11 Aircraft Acceptance Park (Southport), before the end of hostilities saw aircraft contracts cancelled. Sadly, all trace of the Vulcan works has been demolished to make way for housing. Between the wars, the airfield hosted scheduled services to Belfast, Port Patrick and Maryport, Manchester, Aintree and Liverpool, and further services into Wales and Scotland. Flying circuses would use the airfield as a base, and in the 20s there was even a campaign by Sir Alan Cobham to open a regional airfield here, though as he was also looking at over 100 other locations, Southport's chances were slim at best, and the idea went quietly away. Further along the beach, the Sands at Ainsdale were involved in an infamous transatlantic crossing by pioneer aviator Dick Merrill and his co-pilot Harry Rickman. Having already crossed from the US to London via Wales in September 1936, the two men began their return leg from Southport later that month. The town's boast of 40 miles of hard sand allowed for a long take-off run, perfect for the heavy planes of the day, including Merrill's Vultee, the Lady Peace. The two men crossed the Atlantic for a second time. However, a mistaken dumping of fuel left them unable to make New York City, and instead they put down in a boggy marsh in Newfoundland. They eventually made the Big Apple a week later following repairs. To aid buoyancy in the event of ditching in the ocean, their plane had been partly filled with thousands of ping-pong balls, hence the venture became known as the ping-pong flight. In the Second World War, the site was active again, forming a facility for maintenance of Mosquito and Anson aircraft. Spitfires that had been repaired by Martin Herd Limited over at Houghton Park were brought to Hesketh Park for reassembly in a hangar built for the work. Meanwhile, another unit at the site, the one packed aircraft transit pool, disassembled planes brought to the airfield either by road or flown in. These were packed in crates, taken to Liverpool docks and shipped to all parts of the globe. After the war, one of the original World War I hangars was demolished, with Southport Corporation using the remaining hangar as a bus depot. Southport and Merseyside Aero Club used the airfield in the late 50s, but felt the beach airfield was unsuitable for flying training, so relocated, firstly to Woodvale Aerodrome just along the coast in Formby, then later to Liverpool Airport. Flying at Hesketh Park continued up until 1965, after which the remaining hangars were demolished. A row of houses now stands in their place, and the beach has been reclaimed by nature. At first glance, it's difficult to see any evidence that aircraft ever graced this area, but opposite the houses, over a small mound, there's a relic of that former time. Buried a little in the undergrowth and weeds is the apron from in front of the hangars, all that remains of Hesketh Park Aerodrome. The Aero Club erected a commemorative plaque in 2004, containing images and a history of the site. Perhaps one day this hidden remnant of local aviation history may be restored and recover its wings. Thanks for listening.